Hi, welcome back to the workshop for the final episode of the Thinline Telecaster build. In the last episode we left halfway through making the nut, so we'll get back down on the bench and carry on where we left off. Okay, so I've sanded this nut down now and I've just given it a buff up. It is nice and glossy now. It's not really showing up in the camera, but it is very smooth and got a nice shine to it. Okay, so next we're just going to glue that in position. In the end I took the strings off just to make this a little bit easier. Now when you're putting these nuts in, you just want a tiny little bit of glue, and that's probably too much glue. And take a bunch of that out. And then just stick my nut in. Got glue on the fretboard. I'll have to clean that up. So that's stuck in now, so all that remains to do is to string this up again and we can continue with the setup. Okay, so we're strung up and we're tuned to pitch. So first off, I've got a few little checks that I need to make just so that I can see if we're in the right ballpark for setup or not. First one of those is for neck relief. So I'll stick a capo on at the first fret. Put it in the playing position. I'm going to fret it round about at the body joint. Okay, so in this case we're at 17th fret. And then I'm going to check at the 7th fret and I'm looking for about 12 thou of neck relief. And we're a little bit over there. Not a touch, so I'm just going to back the truss rod off a tiny little bit. And recheck that. And that's good. So we're kind of at a fat 12 thou there, so that's brilliant for what I want. Next up, I'm going to just have a quick look at the string heights. And I always check at the 12th fret. And that's measuring about 1.75 mil. So if anything, that's a little bit on the low side, but if it's not choking out, I kind of probably leave it there. And the low E is about 1.5. So that's kind of in the ballpark as well. So I'm going to leave them for the minute. I'm not going to adjust them any. I'm going to just have a play up and down the neck in a minute to make sure that nothing's choking out. And if we're good at that, I'm going to leave it. And the next thing, I'm just going to put this 12-inch radius gauge under there. And that's pretty close. So I'm getting to be quite lucky on this one. Everything seems to be roughly where we need it to be. So next up I'm going to check the intonation and then we should be pretty much there. The only other thing that would leave, of course, is to get the pickups into position. Okay, so that's probably about 10 minutes to get the intonation sorted out. It was quite close. with these 3 saddle bridges, even though they are compensated, it is always going to be a little bit of a compromise when you're setting the intonation. But this is close, very close. Okay, I'm just going to wind the pickups up a little bit. And I'll adjust those properly once I've got it plugged in and I can see how it sounds. Now that is pretty much it. There's only one small little detail that I need to do, and that is to put the string tree on. So I'll go and find that wherever it might be and we'll get that put on. Okay, so I just need to put the little string tree on, and all that does is it just keeps those 2 strings pulled down a little bit, and it keeps them tight in the nut slot, so it stops any kind of weird buzziness coming from the nut. If you haven't seen these before, there's 2 little grooves that run under the bottom of there. I'm just going to position that where I want it. This would be a horrible time to mess it up, so don't drill all the way through. Put a little bit of wax in the screw threads. Screw it in. And then retune. Okay, so I've been through this. There's no issues in terms of playability. There's no kind of choking or fret buzzing or anything. It's got that Telecaster twang to it. It sounds quite nice, but it's also got that kind of semi-hollow acoustic vibe thing going on. I haven't plugged it in yet, so I don't know what it sounds like through an amp, but acoustically it sounds really nice, quite mellow. I've got a couple of more things that I need to do before I'm finished tonight with it. Firstly, I need to put some oil on the fingerboard because it's still quite dry, and I need to put some lubrication in the nut slot. So I'll run through that in a second. It's worth bearing in mind that this guitar now is going to move from living in the shed where it's nice and cold to being in the warm house. So it is kind of very likely that I'm going to have to revisit the setup on this in a few days or a few weeks' time as it acclimatises. It might move around a little bit, but that's not a big deal. It won't be massive readjustments, it'll just be little tweaks. Okay, to lubricate the nut slot, this is something I've done for a long time, and it's always worked well for me. I just take a little bit, this is very light machine oil, the type that you might use in, say, an air tool or something like that, and I'm just going to mix in with it some pencil lead. Give that a mix up. The only drawback to this is if you do get it kind of all over your nut, it does look a little bit messy. And then I'm just going to drop a little bit of that mixture into each nut slot. going to drop a little bit more oil onto the fingerboard and let that soak in a bit. So I think the only thing left to do now is to go and fetch the amplifier and give this thing a little blast. Okay, so there we have the finished article, and I have to say I'm very pleased with it. It looks really nice in my opinion, and I've had it plugged in and had a quick play and I think it sounds great. So what I'm going to do now is just kind of show you the setup that I'm going to use and just give you a quick sound demonstration. Okay, so for the demo I'm going to be using my Marshall Origin 20. I've got the pedal board down as well, mainly for the tuner, but I'll be able to give you some kind of dirty tones as well. Okay, so I'm just going to run you through a few tones on this. I'm not really going to try and play too much, just give you an idea of what it sounds like. So this is clean, there's no reverb or anything on this, just straight into the amp on the bridge pickup. This is the middle pickup. So that's the middle position, and this is the neck position. So I quite like that, quite nice and warm sounding, but with that little bit of jangle that you would expect from Telecaster. So I'm just going to put a little bit of reverb on. Just giving it a little bit of boost, give it a bit of a crunchy tone. Okay, and there we have it. Hopefully that's demonstrated that despite my dodgy playing, the guitar can sound quite good. I've really enjoyed this project. The image I had of it in my head when I was kind of considering what I was going to do roughly matches what I've ended up with. I think the only unexpected thing was I was expecting this to be like a really plain maple top, but there is a little bit of figure in there that I wasn't expecting, so that's a bonus, but I am really happy with that. The other aspect of this that I've really enjoyed is how much other people seem to be enjoying it, and for me that's absolutely amazing. So thank you for all the positive feedback that I've been getting over the months that this one has taken. This of course leads us on to the next burning question, is what's going to happen next? Well, the Great Guitar Build-Off is starting in a few weeks' time. I will be entering that. I've discussed this in the past. I'm not really quite sure what I'm going to do yet, but I will be in it. But I think I've got a little bit of time before I need to worry about that too much. I could do with a little bit of time to formalise what my plans are and to start making preparations. So I think I've got time to squeeze another build in. It's going to be a quick build. It's not going to be anywhere near as complicated as this, but it's something that I've wanted to do for a long time. I'm not going to say too much about what it's going to be, but I will be back very, very shortly with the big reveal. And once again, I hope you've enjoyed this build series. If you have, you know, make sure that you are liking the videos. It does help me a lot. If you haven't already done so, I could do with those subscriptions, and I'll look forward to seeing you on the next video. Thanks a lot for watching. Bye bye.